My number 2, Sister's Keeper.
Go back to sleep, I'll be okay. Merritt, you have to sleep. I can't. Not while Freddy's in there. Give me a break.
Yes.
My number 1.
Sister's Keeper.
Sister's Keeper.
Yep.
The almost a Nightmare on Elm Street thing.
It's the closest one
So
you're going to
close.
get. Yeah.
So close. Yeah. I thought this is the other one that I knew. I was like, we both have to have this on something. Either you're going to hate it or you're going to like it. Let me get into the plot.
Yep.
It's so it is a sequel episode to the pilot.
Right.
The pilot is No More Mr. Nice Guy. So this one, the pilot follows like the cop that arrests and is part of Freddy's death. This one follows his 2 twin daughters. Their daughters' names are Lisa and Merritt. And Lisa is like, they're kind of opposite personalities. So they are twin sisters. They look the exact same. I got to give some credit. It gets a little confusing at times. We were like, wait, which one is this?
They start swapping.
Well, the plot also makes it confusing. But in general, because they're twins, sometimes you get confused. You're like, oh, wait, is this Lisa? Is this Merritt? You're like, okay. So it kind of throws you off. To their credit, they do style them differently.
Yeah.
Lisa is like the confident, outgoing one. She's like popular, at school. She has like a pretty strong clique that she's with. Merritt is kind of like the outcast, like the weirdo kid that everyone's kind of like, something's weird about her. Because Merritt, from the result of the pilot episode, is aware of Freddy Krueger. She is now, she's basically the Nancy in the Freddy's Nightmares timeline.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is part of the issue with this episode is that, Freddy's Nightmares, they don't give a fuck. They basically retcon Nightmare on Elm Street 1. So this is basically Freddy year 1 in a sense. Or sorry, is it year 0 you would call it?
So we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Do you know what I mean by this?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
This is similar to...
When does this happen
That's
on the timeline?
it. And in my opinion, this happens before... It either happens before Nancy or it is Nancy.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the two.
So whether you want to pull at this thread now or later, I looked this up because I wanted to get an idea of when was he killed? Like on the original timeline. And the estimation is about 1968 is when he was killed in, the Wes Craven Nightmare on Elm Street storyline.
It's supposed to be killed in the 60s?
68.
But that takes place in the 80s, so it's like it's like 2 decades later.
That's right. So the kids, the parents, they've had their kids, they've now grown up, and he's now...
So he was negotiating with the time demons, the dream people. Yeah. He was negotiating with them for 2 decades before they finally inked a deal. Yep. You know those little worm things?
Yep. Oh yeah. 3D, put on your glasses or whatever. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so it if you try to hold the TV series to the sort of parent storyline,
it does not work.
It does not work.
No, again, this is just its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it retcons everything.
Yeah.
There is no continuity.
Except that it is tied to the Nightmare on Elm Street storyline.
Kind of. Right? You talking about the pilot?
I'm talking about the pilot episode.
Kind of. Because it immediately retcons shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we'll probably talk a little bit more about that.
Nope. It's never going to be brought up again. All right. Moving back to the plot. Yep. So Merritt is like convinced that she starts seeing Freddy Krueger in her nightmares. And she's like, you don't understand. Like the town killed Freddy and now he's become something else. And she's basically the prophecy of doom type character. She's trying to warn everyone. And she basically gets teased and made fun of. Because at this point, none of these movies have happened.
It's funny. First your dad goes nuts because he let Freddy go. And then you go nuts thinking Freddy's back. What's it like being crazy?
Or maybe they're happening right now.
Maybe they're all at the same time.
Whatever. Yeah. But like nobody knows that Freddy Krueger is Freddy Krueger. When they know Freddy Krueger, it's like, oh yeah, he was that that child murderer who got burned alive and is now dead.
Right.
That's what everybody knows from Because they're like, people are teasing her, like, oh yeah, Freddy's in your dream. Sure, Merritt, right? We get, I'm going to save that for a second. I've got a good point, but I'm going to save it. What else?
Sorry, this was your number one?
This is my number one.
Number one.
This is
Okay,
my
yeah.
number one.
Yeah.
This is my favorite episode of the entire of season 1.
Yeah.
Because it's the one that feels the most like it could have been a night. This plot could have worked for a Nightmare on Elm Street movie,
Right.
Like an actual film.
Or you could take this plot element and have had these characters be characters in one of the movies, and it would have made sense.
Yeah, I think Merritt and Lisa, they're of all the characters, like most of the characters in this show feel just kind of like stereotypical one note, whatever, one dimensional characters. Merritt and Lisa feel like actual Elm Street characters.
Right.
Like I could see them in the group home in Elm Street 3,
Right.
and they would fit right in with that group. We're both having nightmares. We share one dream. Like these two feel like Nightmare on Elm Street characters, and they're solid protagonists too. They're good. Back to the plot. So Merritt is having nightmares about Freddy, and she wakes up one morning. No one believes her, including her mother and her sister. They're both just like, Merritt, you got to get over this. Like, let it go. Fred Krueger's dead.
Yep.
And Merritt is jealous of her sister Lisa, because Lisa's like the popular cool kid. Merritt is not. And Merritt's like, you don't know what it's like being me, being the social outcast. You have no idea, Lisa. Everything comes so easy to you. So after a nightmare, Merritt decides to stay home, and then Lisa goes to school, but she pretends to be Merritt.
Because why?
Because she wants to see... I'm actually not against this part. I'm against what comes after. So the idea is she's trying to see, like, okay, I'm going to pretend to be my sister. Let's see how the world treats me. And it turns out they treat her pretty poorly. So, like, people are mean to her.
Yep.
People that she, if she was Lisa, would be more friendly, but now that she's pretending to be Merritt, they don't even give her the time of day, So she gets to experience what that's like. She has a goofy boyfriend, which is really funny. So Lisa has this boyfriend that's like just this typical, I don't know, jock douche boyfriend. He hits on Merritt. Well, he hits on.
It's Lisa.
It's Lisa, but Lisa's pretending to be Merritt. But he hits on Merritt because she's more confident.
Right.
So she's acting like Lisa. But in his mind, he thinks this is Merritt, and yet he still hits on her. And I like that he actually tries to get with both of them, like multiple times, even when he knows. And I like, like he gets like slapped, and he's just like, just isn't my day.
Yeah.
Womp womp. Like,
I better get back there and explain. She's gonna kill me.
Oh no, please don't say anything.
Don't worry, I won't. This just isn't my day.
this character is so stupid.
Right.
It's so pointless, but
Like, this whole plot point did not have to be a part of the episode, but they're
Right.
just like, meh.
it was kind of like they had to stretch out, because this is one of the few times the A and B plot is the same
It's
plot.
one
It's
continued
one
story,
continuous story. It was almost like they had to come up with something to stretch it a bit.
Yep.
So they're like, all right, how about a thing where the sisters swap personalities? Okay.
I guess.
It gets
Yep.
very confusing. What follows in that first half is Lisa, after pretending to be Merritt, people start, like, they don't believe she's Lisa. And then
Yep.
Merritt gets a little bit more confident. And then it gets very, I don't know. I didn't really like that A plot. I can't fully explain it.
I feel like it's in the writer's handbook that if you're going to have twins, there has to be a scene where they swap roles.
Right.
they're
Because
just
it's so
like-
easy to do. You don't have to use makeup.
Yeah, it's like, well, then why do you have twins if you're not going to do the old switcheroo?
Right.
It's like, okay, but you don't have to do that. But
I-
they
yeah.
did, and
I-
they butchered it.
The
kind
A
of.
plot in this is definitely the weaker.
Yeah.
I got to give a shout out to the bizarre hair clip that they use. So this is so strange. So a hair clip normally is like a small little clip,
Yep.
but I've seen hair clips that are kind of like, they almost look like a headband, and it's like a larger clip. This clip is used twice in this episode. So once it's used by, I believe Lisa's using it, and she's using it like normally it would be like in your hair on the top. You know, like those colored bands women have sometimes, girls would use these. But she's using it on the back of her head vertically. And it's creating like a fan fin. Instead of a ponytail, it's like this fin coming off the back of her head. Did you catch this?
Yeah. The only thing I could think of is maybe they needed to do something that made them look so completely different so that you could tell the difference. But
well, I don't. To me, it was kind of just like I wrote it off as 80s.
80s.
Yeah, I'm just like 80s.
You wouldn't get it. So
it's just like stupid hair, 80s. And then later, Merritt uses the same clip again, but she uses it horizontally, and the clip is huge. So it just creates this weird like fan of hair just coming off the back of her head. It looks so weird.
Insert image of
oh, absolutely. I'll be showing those images. Yeah, it's just so fucking weird looking. What else do I got here? Okay, the first half has, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, my favorite Freddy Krueger scene in the entire series.
Okay.
Is in the first half. So Merritt's having I believe it's Merritt. Yeah, maybe it's Lisa. I don't know. It's one of them. One of them's having a dream, and it's like in a classroom, and it's like some guy is like playing on a guitar. I think it's Lisa's boyfriend, maybe. He's like playing a guitar, and then like all of a sudden it like cuts back, and now it's Freddy, and Freddy has the guitar, and he says some stupid one-liner about like, time to rock with your new boyfriend, honey. Yeah. And he jumps in the air with the guitar and does like a little kick.
Merritt, I love you so.
Amazing.
Yep.
Amazing. Yep. That's my number one Freddy Krueger scene in the entire series, because this, to me, this distills the essence of Freddy's nightmares, which is, fuck you, who cares? We're just going to do stupid shit. We're going to dress Freddy up in stupid costumes. We don't give a fuck. If you like MTV era Freddy Krueger wearing the sunglasses, this is the show for you, because this, at no point is he very serious, Freddy.
No, this is not part 1, Freddy.
It is basically always part 4 onward, Freddy. Yeah. It's just constant bad puns, and something about this scene. This is the iconic shot too. When people think of Freddy's nightmares, it's this shot of him jumping in the air playing an electric guitar. Fuck you, Freddy's nightmares. That should have been that should have been their ad campaign. Just show that little clip, and then fuck you, Freddy's nightmares. Boom. That's it.
We're so far gone.
Yeah.
Don't even,
we don't give a fuck.
Pretend that,
Love it. I love that scene. So the first half ends with Lisa, who didn't believe Merritt, having a nightmare of her own about Freddy. And she wakes up, and she now finally believes her sister. And she has like some dream about, the dream is actually kind of poignant, because the dream is like, her dream is like, she is Merritt, and she's like chained up, and all the other kids are like throwing rocks at her, like teasing her. Do you remember this? Yeah. It's very much just like, it's an exaggeration of what her outcast sister feels like, right? Which Freddy was always really good at preying on your insecurities and manifesting that in the dream world, right? So, clever dream idea. She wakes up, and while she's initially hesitant, Lisa finally believes Merritt, because she actually has, I think it's that dream, she wakes up and she has like claw marks. Yeah. This episode uses the Nightmare on Elm Street lore. Right. If you die in the dream, whatever happens to you in the dream will physically manifest in the real world.
And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think they established early in the episode that they can feel what the other one's feeling. right?
So that's more the second part.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the second part sets this up. So it ends, the first part, oh, Merritt's crazy. Lisa has a nightmare. Oh, okay, you're not crazy. I believe you, sister.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to believe us. And this is the part where it feels the most like an Elm Street movie. So the entire second part is the twins trying to find a way to fight Freddy.
Yeah.
Do you believe me now? Or does one of us have to die first?
You were right from the start. He got inside my head, knew what I was thinking about you, all the awful things that I was thinking about you.
That doesn't matter now. He knows where to hit both of us.
Well, what are we supposed to do? No one will believe us. They'll put us away.
We're not gonna tell anyone. We're gonna do this ourselves. We're sharing each other's nightmares. If he gets you, I feel it. And if he gets me, you feel it.
How are we supposed to stay alive?
I don't know.
That's the whole B plot. It's great.
Which works.
It works
because
really well.
That's
the formula.
That's Nightmare on Elm Street.
Literally,
right? What do we
Nightmare on Elm
have?
Street.
How can we use this against him?
Yeah,
right?
they use that formula,
Yeah.
and the formula works really well.
Yeah.
So they feel just like Elm Street kids. So they immediately realize they're like, no one's going to believe us. We're on our own.
Right.
This is happening in our minds. So we need to figure this out together. And what starts happening is, and this would be a neat idea if they added this to the Elm Street lore with the twins. So when one of them's having a dream, the other one can feel it. They can feel like some sensation. They can feel like they're also getting some of the effects of their sister dreaming. So they have some sort of like, dare I say psychic, but they have some sort of psychic connection. And they look for help. And they find a character, they find a teacher to aid them. Because there's like this, they set him up in the first part. It's like some like more like new age progressive teacher, Mr. Sligman. And he's basically the Neil Gordon character of part 3.
Right.
Where he's like, he's somebody who's actually willing to listen to the children and then try to give them some actual like useful advice. And through him, what are you showing me?
The picture of the...
that's iconic. Freddy's Nightmares.
Yep.
Yeah, Mark just flashed me the image of Freddy playing the guitar. Legendary, man. Legendary.
Yep.
I want that on a shirt. I want that. I just wanted to say Freddy's Nightmares, fuck you. We don't give a fuck.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do
No,
that.
it's okay. So they go to the teacher and they have an idea of how to fight Freddy. Because individually they're vulnerable. But if they can have a dream together, they feel that they have a better odds of surviving and fighting back against Freddy. They don't know how to beat him, but they know they need to work together. So they need to learn to dream together.
Yep.
And that's where Mr. Sligman comes in, is he helps coach them on how to simultaneously link their dreams.
Yep. It's kind of like a play on the
Elm Street 3 and
bringing other people into your dreams.
Exactly. Right? It's a play on this one kind of copies Elm Street 1 and 3. It kind of like mixes the two plots.
But just adds the other element of we're also twins, we have a connection.
Yep.
Good idea.
So they test the theory and realize it actually works. And they have an initial encounter with Freddy. It plays out like an Elm Street, like a plot of a movie.
Yep.
So first, they have a conflict. They got to figure out how to solve the conflict. They get the aid of somebody. They have a plan. They put it to the test. Turns out it works. They do a test run and Freddy materializes and they both are able to come into the dream and they wake up unscathed. So then they have their final showdown that they're going to have with Freddy. That the two of them are going to go into the dream together and fight Freddy. And this actually has one of the very few cool Freddy effects in the show. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember, no.
The extended arm? Do you remember this?
No, I got it. Yeah, I think I got a picture of it here too. Yep.
There's a shot where Freddy grabs one of the sisters and he's like holding on her with his claws up, and then the other sister shows up and is like, "Get away from her, you creep!" And then he does this cool effect where his arm just kind of like that's the shot. Yep. His arm just like stretches out at the other sister.
Get away from her, you bastard!
Oh, sister's keeper.
You can clearly see the piano wire like holding the fucking thing
Sure, but
up,
they did the same thing in part 1, and it looked great there too, right?
It was a cool effect. That's one of the very few like Freddy effects, we'll call them, and it works really well. Things you liked about this episode, Mark. Why don't you take it away?
If you're looking for any episode in season 1, I think we've already kind of established this. Any episode in season 1 that could tie to the Nightmare on Elm Street film series, this would be the one. It has Freddy Krueger in a traditional Freddy Krueger role.
Acting like Freddy.
Yep, he does what he does. You can get to him the same way. What he does to you has the same impact that you would find in the movies. The characters are likable, right? The twins are a good idea. It's something that we hadn't seen in the movies and would make perfect sense.
I would actually like them to bring them in.
Yeah.
Like that would have been cool. Twin characters, and maybe they have some weird connection. Like maybe they give them some more lore. Like
I found in the pilot, they were a little bit kind of one-note-ish. So it was nice to see them kind of expanded on a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
In this one.
Yeah.
No, they used the full 45-minute episode to tell a decent, tight story. And that's really all you can hope for from these. They knew they didn't have the budget for the effects, but they didn't try to do things. They didn't try to do something that they couldn't afford and then only find out that it's going to look terrible. They worked within the limitations that they had. And I give them credit for that, right? Like,
I like the idea of these twin sisters that are trying to work together.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're not Alice and they're not Kristen. So they're not dream masters or dream, whatever Kristen's ability was, but they're not pulling. The way they explain the lore is different. They're not pulling people into the dream. They're syncing their minds.
They're having the same dream.
They're having the same dream at the same time. They're going into the dream at the same time and then somehow syncing their minds. So they basically have a psychic link. So it is a different way of explaining the whole pull people into your dreams lore. And it works. It's clever. I like it.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Before you started watching the series, did you imagine that the episodes would be like this or that they would be like Beefy Boy Burgers?
Beefy Boy Burgers.
So
I fully expected, because I knew the show was Freddy's the Crypt Keeper character. So this is one of the few episodes where Freddy is the antagonist. That happens in like 5% of the episodes. Most of the episodes, he just shows up and he's like, well, isn't that a killer story? Like that's literally how it goes.
So again, if you are going to subject yourself to watching this, understand as much as Freddy is in the title, as much as he's in the bumpers between the A and B stories,
he's not the antagonist.
The commercial breaks, you're really not going to see him except in those few episodes. And this is one of the ones where he is a primary part of that episode, and they actually do it very well.
Yeah, it's good. Let's talk about the ending. I like the ending, but I can see if you didn't like the ending. So they go into the dream world together to fight Freddy, and Merritt figures out that she pulls a Nancy and she takes Freddy's power away from him by basically being like, I'm in control here. You don't exist. I'm taking my power away from you. And she turns her back on Freddy and Freddy disappears.
It's exactly what happens in the first movie.
Exactly. Right? She wakes up and she's so excited. She goes over to her sister and her sister's sliced up and is dead.
Yep.
What did you do? What did you do to your sister?
It wasn't me. We were helping each other. No, it was Freddy. Lisa died for me. It was Freddy. It was Freddy.
Well,
that's a dark twist ending.
You know that they couldn't beat him because, this was a fairly early episode.
Yeah, no, it's like mid-season. I think it's like episode 11 or 12.
Well, if they want to do more seasons, you can't stop Freddy if you expect to continue doing this, right? So,
yeah, but see, I think it's a dark implication. So the way I interpret the ending was they didn't actually link up in the dream. That
that's a good one.
Lisa and Merritt were actually having different dreams. Merritt was dreaming that they were synced up and that Lisa was in the dream with her.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Lisa was having some other heinous Freddy nightmare that we never got to see, because when she wakes up, she's like slashed and cut to shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, we never saw that. So the implication to me was like, no, they actually failed to link up for whatever reason. Maybe they pulled it off in earlier parts, or maybe they never pulled it off. Like maybe they just believed they were able to do this, but they never actually were able to do it. Because theoretically, why would Lisa have been dead when Merritt woke up? When Merritt took away Freddy's powers, that should have been it. They both should have just woken up.
And normally on any other episode, I wouldn't be willing to give them the credit that you are giving them. But for this one, I could see that was their intent. And I'm willing to
this
give
one's
them
a
the
little
benefit.
bit smarter.
I'll give them the benefit of the doubt
Yeah.
to say that maybe they intended that to be the impact.
There's also a great shot of the mom. She's in the kitchen. It's in the first part, and it's just like a random nightmare sequence. And the mom all of a sudden out of nowhere starts acting like Freddy, and she grabs like kitchen knives and sticks them into the ends of her fingers to make the glove. That was a cool effect. Do you remember this?
And it's very similar to what you might see in one of the movies.
In an Elm Street movie. Yeah. This is my number one, buddy.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
a good-
this
that's
is
a
the
good
one
pick.
that feels the most like an Elm Street movie. And I really I would honestly really like to see these characters in an Elm Street movie.
Yeah.
Like I think you can play. There's potential here. I think the ending really sets up for a fun sequel too, because it ends with immediately Lisa's mom comes in. She's like, "Merritt, what did you do?" Because at this point, no, like they're not going to believe the kids.
Why would they?
So here, I'm going to pitch it to you right now. Merritt could have been a character in the group home.
Oh,
how cool is that?
Yep.
Where it's like, yeah, they blamed me for killing my sister.
And who knows, maybe
that would have been cool.
Maybe if they hadn't done Dream Warriors when they did, then they could have done that, right?
Yeah,
But
that would have been a neat idea if Merritt had shown up, and then like the reason she got sent to the troubled home was because they thought that she killed her own twin sister.
she's clearly going to have some difficulties after that.
Well, not only would she have PTSD, she'd have a hell of a fucking grudge against Freddy, setting her up as quite the protagonist. She's got a lot of motivation.
Yep.
Ooh!
These two felt like Elm Street children.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Genuinely felt like Elm Street kids. Yeah. It was like you were watching like Taryn or any of the other kids, Joey and them. They felt like troubled kids that they were facing this like unstoppable demon on their own, and they really felt like you were actually rooting for them. Mm-hmm. A lot of times with Freddy's Nightmares, you just don't care. It's just shit happening, and you're like, it's most of your energy is like, wait, what? This is different.
Most of the time, I'm pressing the button on my remote to see how much time is left in the episode.
Oh.
I did that a few times.
Yeah,
I gotta say.
I did it a couple times, and the funniest part is always when I'd go, there's like 2 minutes left. How are you wrapping this up? There's so many times I'm like, how are you quickly wrapping this up? Yeah. They found a way.
They found a way.
And they found a way, and it was always expertly written.
Yeah. It was you the whole time.
Right, yeah.